The Elder Scrolls has 8 schools of magic, and most players have only ever used 3 of them. From the raw elemental fury of destruction to lost schools that haven't appeared in a game in over 2 decades, each one has a history and a reputation that most people never bothered to look into. So today I'm breaking down every single school of magic and everything that makes them tick, starting with the one everybody picks first, Destruction. Destruction magic is built on 3 pillars, and you already know what they are: fire, frost, and shock, the holy trinity of blowing things up. But here's the thing, these 3 elements aren't just cosmetic reskins of each other. Fire is the efficiency king. You're looking at 8 damage per second for just 14 magicka per second, making it the best bang for your magical buck by a wide margin. Frost drains both health and stamina simultaneously, turning melee fighters into sad, exhausted punching bags. And Shock hits health and magicka at the same time, basically deleting an enemy mage's ability to fight back. The trade-off is that Shock's base damage is split between the 2 pools, so you're technically doing half the raw health damage of fire, which is, not ideal. At the top end, master level spells like Incinerate hit for 60 fire damage, while Chain Lightning deals 40 shock damage that jumps between targets. Stack that across a group and you're clearing rooms before enemies finish their combat dialogue. Despite its reputation as purely offensive, Destruction also gives you flame, frost, and lightning cloaks, damage auras that punish anything stupid enough to get close. Basically, a touch me and find out policy wrapped in a spell. That said, you are still a glass cannon held together by robes and optimism, and those cloaks are really just making the cannon slightly spikier, but at least Destruction mages can point to a pile of ashes and say they accomplished something. Restoration mages can't even do that. Restoration. Restoration is the most disrespected school of magic in Elder Scrolls history, and it doesn't deserve it. Not even a little. Because underneath the boring healer reputation is a school of magic that might be doing something way more unsettling than anyone realizes. On the surface, Restoration covers exactly what you'd expect: healing spells, fortifying your attributes, warding against magical damage, curing diseases, and turning undead. Standard support class stuff. You cast a spell, your health goes back up, you move on with your life. But here's where it gets weird. Restoration magic channels life energy directly from Auri-El, the god spirit of sunlight and time. That's not a metaphor. You are literally borrowing the essence of creation itself every time you cast a healing spell. And the leading theory on how that healing actually works: it doesn't repair your wounds at all. It replaces them. Damaged tissue, corrupted flesh, whatever's wrong with you, gets overridden with entirely new life energy drawn from Auri-El. You're not getting fixed, you're getting substituted, which is, not ideal. And Restoration isn't even purely defensive. The school includes sun magic, which channels solar radiance that is inherently destructive to undead. A healing school that deals damage. Vampire Dawnguard hunters built entire loadouts around Restoration sun spells, and at adept level, Sunfire hits for 25 base damage to undead, scaling up to triple that with perks. That's destruction level output from the school everyone ignores. The real tragedy is that Restoration paired with Alteration creates one of the most unkillable builds in the entire game. Constant wards, constant healing, functionally immortal. But nobody wants to talk about that because it doesn't shoot fireballs. Speaking of summoning things way more exciting than fireballs, let's talk about the school that lets you rip creatures straight out of oblivion. Conjuration. Conjuration magic is basically the art of saying I need help and then ripping that help screaming out of another dimension. It's one of the oldest and most dangerous schools of magic in Tamriel, and the earliest practitioners were essentially gambling with their lives every time they reached across the veil between Mundus and the Daedric planes, trying to pull things through without letting every screaming horror in existence flood into the mortal realm, which is, a pretty important detail to get right on the first try. Before it became a proper discipline, conjuration was dangerous hedge magic, but over time, institutions like the Mages Guild turned it into a legitimate mainstream discipline with formal training. Suddenly you could learn to rip a fire Atronach out of oblivion in a classroom setting. Progress. The range of what you can summon is genuinely absurd. At lower levels, you're pulling elemental Atronachs through your standard fire, frost, and shock varieties. But as your mastery grows, you gain access to Dremora, powerful Daedric servants that could level a small settlement if they felt like it. Then there are bound weapons like the Bound Bow, which materializes out of thin air with Daedric quality properties. No smithing, no materials, just pure conjured lethality. Here's where it gets interesting though. Soul Trap. The spell that lets you capture souls and gems used to be a mysticism spell back in Oblivion, but when Skyrim rolled around, it got reclassified under Conjuration. That's not just a gameplay tweak, that's a fundamental shift in how the magical community categorizes where soul magic belongs. And then there's Command Daedra. Lets you seize control of a summoned creature and bend it to your will. Sounds incredible, right? Here's the kicker. If the Daedra you're trying to dominate is too powerful, powerful, the spell just fails completely. You attempt to dominate a Daedric entity, and all you get is a slightly annoyed demon staring at you. Great, but if you think pulling monsters from other dimensions is unsettling, wait until you hear about the school that rewrites your brain without you even knowing it happened. Illusion. Illusion magic doesn't change reality. It doesn't need to. It just rewrites what your brain thinks is happening, and honestly, that's way more terrifying. See, unlike alteration, which genuinely bends the laws of physics in ways everyone can observe, illusion completely sidesteps nature. It works purely within the conscious mind of the target. The caster reaches into someone's perception and modifies it directly. Fear, charm, invisibility, frenzy spells that turn a room full of allies against each other. None of it is real. But to the person experiencing it, it's indistinguishable from reality. And that's what makes illusion the most politically dangerous school of magic in existence. Here's why. If someone used alteration to change reality, everyone would notice. The evidence would be right there. But illusion deception? You'd need specialized counter magic just to detect that anything happened at all. It's invisible warfare. Which brings us to the single most dramatic demonstration of any school's power in the entire franchise. Jagar Tharn, the Imperial Battle Mage, used illusion magic to imprison Emperor Uriel Septim VII in Mehrunes Dagon's Plane of Oblivion. Then he copied the Emperor's appearance and ruled the entire empire. For a decade, nobody noticed, not the Elder Council, not the guards, not the provinces. One mage with illusion magic replaced the most powerful man on Tamriel and ran the show for 10 years undetected. That period became known as the Imperial Simulacrum, and it's basically the strongest argument you could ever make for why illusion is the assassination school of politics. Skilled practitioners can even affect multiple minds simultaneously, though difficulty scales with each additional target. But when your baseline capability is, I can make an emperor disappear and take his place, the scaling problem feels like a minor footnote. But if illusion rewrites what you think is real, the next school rewrites what actually is. Elderation. Most schools of magic are about what you can do to the world. Alteration is about what you can do to the world's rules. This school genuinely rewrites the laws of physics and biology, and the key word there is genuinely. When illusion makes you invisible, nobody can see you, but you're still technically standing right there. When alteration changes something, it's changed. Every observer recognizes the new reality because it is the new reality, and the Ayleids figured this out first. The Heartland High Elves pioneered alteration magic during the First Era, and immediately did what any reasonable civilization would do with the power to rewrite reality. They weaponized it. During the Siege of Bravil, they deployed water-breathing and levitation magic against the Alessian forces, turning the battlefield itself into a weapon. Imagine fighting an enemy that can breathe underwater and float above your shield wall. That's not a tactical advantage, that's just cheating. The practical applications are absurdly broad. Stoneflesh hardens your skin into literal armor, adding 60 armor rating for 60 seconds. Detection spells reveal every living creature in your vicinity. Paralysis freezes enemies where they stand. Transmutation lets you convert iron ore into silver and silver into gold, essentially printing money. By Third Era, year 431, the Council of Mages assigned alteration exclusively to the Cheydinhal Guildhall, which tells you something about the school's complexity. They didn't trust every random guildhall to teach it properly. And then there's the Secret of Arcana exploit. Activate that power, grab telekinesis, hold an object, and fast travel. Congratulations, you just hit alteration skill 100 in under 10 minutes. The school that rewrites the laws of nature can also rewrite your skill tree if you know the trick. I don't know what to tell you, but if alteration changes what things are, the next school changes what things can do permanently. Enchanting. Here's a question nobody ever asks. Is enchanting even a school of magic? Because you never cast a single spell. Not one. You stand at a table, you shove a soul into a ring, and suddenly that ring makes you 25% better at hitting things with an axe. That's not magic, that's arts and crafts with metaphysical consequences. But here's the thing, enchanting might be the most powerful discipline in the entire Elder Scrolls universe, and it achieves that power without the practitioner ever raising their hands to cast anything. The process is simple. You need an item to enchant, a magical effect to apply, and a filled soul gem. That last one is doing all the heavy lifting. Soul gems exist in a strict hierarchy, from petty gems holding the flickering souls of mud crabs, all the way up to grand soul gems holding the most powerful non-humanoid souls in the game. And then there are black soul gems, which capture the souls of people. Actual humanoid souls, just trapped in a rock so you can make your boots waterproof, which is, not ideal. The quality of the soul directly determines how powerful your enchantment turns out. A grand soul gives you something genuinely terrifying. A black soul, maximum capacity, every time. But the real insanity starts when you discover the feedback loop. You enchant gear with Fortify Alchemy. Wear that gear to brew a Fortify enchanting potion, drink that potion to enchant even stronger Fortify Alchemy gear. Wear that gear to brew an even stronger potion. You're bouncing between two crafting disciplines like a pinball, stacking power until your enchantments hit numbers that make dedicated spellcasters look like they wasted their entire career studying the wrong thing, and that's the weird paradox. A fully optimized enchanter can exceed the combat output of a specialized mage who spent years mastering destruction. 0 spells cast, 0 magicka spent, just a guy wearing really well-crafted jewelry who also happens to be a pharmacist. But if enchanting feels like it doesn't belong with the traditional schools, wait until you hear about one that literally doesn't exist anymore: Thaumaturgy. Most players have never even heard of this school, and honestly that's fair because it barely survived long enough to make an impression. Thaumaturgy comes from the Greek for the performance of miracles, which is an incredibly bold name for a school of magic that got quietly dissolved and distributed among its peers like assets after a bankruptcy. Thaumaturgy existed as a formal school primarily in Daggerfall, and its spell list was genuinely interesting. Ghost Form let you turn incorporeal. Levitate gave you actual flight. Quiet Undead silenced animated corpses, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say out loud. And Shalador's Mirror reflected spells back at the caster, which is just rude in the best possible way. But here's the thing, look at that list and try to find a theme. Go ahead, take your time. There isn't one. Thaumaturgy functioned as a catch-all for every magical effect that didn't fit neatly into another school. Flight? Sure, throw it in. Ghost Transformation? Why not? Spell Reflection? Somebody's gotta take it. The school was basically a junk drawer with a fancy Greek name, and that's exactly what killed it. Thaumaturgy and mysticism were both serving the same role. Miscellaneous bins for leftover magic, and having 2 miscellaneous bins is one too many. When Bethesda consolidated the schools toward greater theoretical coherence, Thaumaturgy's spells got parceled out to Alteration, Restoration, and wherever else they fit. The Miracle School died not because its spells were bad, but because its identity was non-existent. Here's where it gets interesting though. The community didn't let Thaumaturgy stay dead. Modern Elder Scrolls players have completely redefined what a Thaumaturge is. Forget the junk drawer. In community builds and roleplay discussions, a Thaumaturgy now refers to a generalist mage of immense prowess, someone who wields every school simultaneously. It went from the school we couldn't define to the mage who masters everything, which is, a significant promotion for a discipline that got fired for being too vague. But if Thaumaturgy was the junk drawer nobody could define, mysticism was the junk drawer that at least tried to pretend it had a philosophy. Mysticism. Every other school of magic does something with magic. Destruction burns things, restoration heals things, conjuration summons things. Mysticism manipulates magic itself. It's not a tool for affecting the world, it's a tool for affecting the tools. And if that sounds confusing, congratulations. You now understand why scholars have been arguing about this school for thousands of years. Mysticism is considered the oldest school of magic in Tamriel, and simultaneously, the least understood. Its spell list reads like someone threw 6 unrelated abilities into a hat and called it a curriculum. Mark and Recall let you teleport. Absorb Health drains someone's life force and gives it to you. Detect Life lets you sense things no mortal eye should see. Dispel just straight up unravels another mage's spell work like pulling a thread on a sweater. On paper, none of these have anything in common. But here's the thing, every single mysticism spell bypasses a rule that's supposed to be unbreakable. Teleportation circumvents distance. Soul Trap circumvents the natural dissipation of a soul after death. Detection circumvents the limits of your own senses. The unifying principle isn't what these spells do, it's what they ignore. Mysticism is the school of cheating the system, which makes it all the more painful that Bethesda killed it. Mysticism was fully playable in Morrowind and Oblivion, then Skyrim scattered its spells across other schools like a garage sale. Soul Trap went to Conjuration, Spell Absorption got redistributed. The school itself, gone. No in-game explanation, no lore justification. The community took that about as well as you'd expect. Modders built entire overhauls to bring it back because apparently the fans cared more about preserving it than the developers did. But maybe mysticism's removal accidentally proved its own point. Some scholars in the Elder Scrolls universe argue that there are no true schools of magic. The schools are just arbitrary classifications that mortals invented to make magic easier to teach. Magic itself doesn't care whether you call something destruction or alteration. It's all just magic, which means everything you just watched, every school, every division, every neat little label might be completely made up. Not by me. By the entire magical academic establishment of Tamriel. And honestly, that's the most mysticism thing I've ever heard. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.